Market Musings with Fairbairn and Russell. Hello and welcome to the Market Musings podcast, where today we have Doc Holliday on again. I think, Doc, you're our most regular guest during 2021 so far. We actually, Kenny, I think we need to step up the game on the Market Musings. I think the last one we did was with you as well, Doc. So you're honoured.
Well, I don't know because, hi Doc, how you doing? Yeah, I've done a few with Swazers myself, but point taken, a joint one with me and you, Mark, it's Doc. Doc is the most popular so far. But yeah, we do need to up our game.
Yes, yeah, we probably do. Okay.
We need to stop getting the same people on who are boring as fuck talking shit or trying to sell services. So you need to get rid of Swazers and get rid of me at the same time. Get yourself someone who's got high energy and knows what they're talking about. Would be a preferable advantage for investors. But for the time being, we are where we are, so we might as well get covering a few things, eh?
Yeah, it was a kind of strange week in the markets last week, Doc. It was kind of quiet, as if the volume, some nice movers about. So there was still a few companies.
Major changes in the political scene over in the US. So that was always going to throw up a little bit. Certainly, the last couple of weeks, the markets felt a bit exhausted, a bit tired. But there's been lots of different developments, both here in the UK with COVID. I noticed that the World Health Authority had changed their criteria now. So in order to be considered a positive COVID case, you need to have been tested and symptomatic twice. So that's interesting. That would suggest that numbers are going to be reported as falling, even if fatalities remain to be the same. Yeah. The actual infection rate will be falling based on the changes to the efficiency standard, which the World Health Organization or authority, I can't remember which word using, and obviously change of presidents in the US. So yeah, I'm surprised the market's holding up as well as it is.
Yeah, well, at least the world as well, because Bernie Sanders has got his mask and his mittens on, and that seems to be making more headlines in the world than anything else at the moment. I don't know if you've seen that picture. Did you see him sitting there at the?
Oh yeah, that's gone around the world. Yeah, that's quite funny.
It was really bizarre. So it is, but the COVID situation must be getting better if that's all the media can talk about.
Well, if you read the Sunday Sport like I do, being from the Northern Welfare Safaris, we don't bother with anything of any intellect. I think there was a woman's had his son turned into a fish finger, and then there's a bird with a bangers out on page 3, and that's as far as media I go. So ask me for any more intellectual chat, and you're wasting your time, boys.
Do you know what we used to do when I first started working in the factory? So in a Sunday night shift, all the papers were left from the day shift. So obviously the Sunday Sport was there, and we used to get the address of somebody that we didn't like, and we would fill in all his details and send them away for like the sort of girly mags and things like that. So we would do stuff like that because you were bored shitless in night shift. And I always was expecting the favour to be returned to my house, but it never happened. But their parents would have been horrified with some of the stuff that would probably have
You're showing Mark what a pair of uneducated, uncouth, shallow, non-PC, arsehole-ish individuals is on the podcast with now, Kenny, aren't you? So that's the kind of thing we would do as well.
Yeah, it was great fun. Listen, it was either sink or swim, and you had to make a choice in a factory very quickly. So you did. Yeah,
well, markets are no different. Let's be honest. So we know that investors are trying to find a way to swim, because it's a very quick sink or swim scenario there. So let's hit some of them up, because I know Mark's struggling for time and super busy, and
Yeah, there was a couple of, obviously, the first one we've talked about it a few times as well, Doc, is obviously Nostra Terra Oil and Gas had a nice move last week. It came off a bit at the end of the week, but it seemed to be, it was wanting to break out almost, so it was.
Well, it seemed to be well offered much of the week. So, you could, you seem to have like a bunch of people prepared to sell the shares. A couple of pushes on the buy side, And the moment that happened, the order book would change dramatically. So you could tell it was the wrong level. I think at one point it was 55 bid to 65. And you could just see that was the wrong level. The market were trying to use that sort of exhausted environment to flush out the last few sellers. But Friday, very, very, very strong on the bid in the afternoon. So that would suggest to me that that market makers have changed their mind now and they're ready to take it the opposite direction. But, the testament of time will show that, i.e. Next week or tomorrow, depending on when you air this, we'll already know the answer. But yeah, companies, I think, it's in the best shape that I've seen it for 3-4 years now. But, I'd rather the market be the decide, really, because we can talk about what we think may or may not happen, but markets dictate the reality of things. And, we'll wait, stand by our beds and wait to see.
Yeah,
Interesting, though.
I mean, the market cap's still £3 million as well, because it's had a reasonable move in the last 2 or 3 months, and I keep checking. You think it's going to be 5 million market cap, but it's not. It's 3 million market cap. It's still cheap as chips. And that oil price is still moving up, and I think the forecast is about $60 or something for 2021. Is that what they're forecasting?
Well, you just have to look at what they call the forward curve. Oil has a price that you can look at in the future, and they'll tell you pretty much where they think it's going. I haven't looked at it for a little while, but it's always a good long-term indicator as to what price they think oil's going to be. I think when you look at Nostra, some of these other companies, they've been able to survive very, very difficult markets for quite a long period of time. I remember 2015 was tons and tons of these little oil companies, and a lot of them overexposed themselves and they hit the skids and, they went out of business. And little old Nostra survived. Now, some would say it's only survived by the hairs on its chinny chin chin. And if that's the case, investors on a long-term basis, but I think it's in great shape now. Like you say, 3 million market cap. I don't know if you've looked at it, Mark, but these guys in the right direction. We need a bit more confirmation, but there's certainly subtle messaging in the RNSs talking about unsolicited institutional fundraisers with, accelerate and develop their existing portfolio. And it's this subtle wording that you've got to start picking up on. And you're sort of identifying, Kenny, as, it's gone up a little bit, but it's still rock bottom. I mean, this company now is more than fully funded for its entirety of its 2021 program. So at this value, things like COPL and a variety of different companies within its own peer group, very cheap. But maybe history and the legacy is what's holding it back.
Possibly. Well, I'm glad I put it in my 5 stocks of 2021, because I'm just looking at my stock. It's my best performance so far. It's up 50%. So yeah, pretty happy with that. We can maybe in another podcast with more time, we can maybe do like a monthly review of our 5 picks and see where we're at.
Well, I'm already regretting my 5, but there we go.
Yeah, you had ample time to prepare. Don't have any time preparation.
What's Swayze saying about NTOG then, Kenny?
He's been calling it in every chartcast. He's very bullish on it. So yeah, we talked about it today on our chartcast. So it'll be out hopefully when you get your finger out, Mark, and put it out, for want of a better term.
It's on its way, Kenny. Don't worry.
So okay, good stuff. I like to keep you on your toes. Yeah, you've got to keep marking his toes. So
well, I can't upload it now, you see, because otherwise it'll kill my broadband, and then our podcast would be. But it'll be done. It'll be done.
Perfect. Yeah.
Cracking the whip on a Sunday night, for fuck's sake, give the lad a break. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. It's just another day.
It's just they all move into one as far as Kenny's concerned.
Yeah. I tell you what, I was buying last week, and I'm probably the only one, was Lexington Gold.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've done
Alan Green research talks on that.
Yeah. Gold, just for the fact that it's in a nice, safe jurisdiction. It's cashed up. Get some decent projects. It's off the radar. It's exactly the kind of stock I like to be buying when nobody else is interested, and I'll just keep flying the flag for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and once they start drilling, hopefully it'll pop. So, don't
I
know what
think
you think.
what people are looking for is they're looking for a reason for them to buy, and not just because it's cheap or not just because it's under the radar. People like to see sort of where the catalysts are, and
Yeah,
I'm not sure whether drilling is the catalyst there or what, because it's been quite a while since I looked at it. And as I say, I wasn't aware Richland had changed the name to Lexington. So, I think the name change helps eradicate some of the legacy or some of the changes to management that may well have happened subsequent to Richland's rebranding. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's just looking for those catalysts. I mean, do we know what the big catalysts are in your view, or is it just bombed out under the radar, cheap, and therefore happy to have a little go tickle at it, and we'll wait and see?
yeah, it's a buy and hold. I'm never going to trade in it. There's not a lot of volume. What I do know is that as part of the deal, a lot of the shares were locked up for 12 months, so there's pretty much a limited amount of stock out there. Pretty much every buy seems to move level 2, so there's not a lot of stock around. But no, I'm quite happy. I've accumulated a few, and I'll sit and see what unfolds in 2021. But talking about
Well,
rebranding,
that was the kind. No, go
on you
ahead.
go.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, look,
No,
you start talking about free float. I mean, that's been Capital Metals is just down to free float, and if you look at some of the bigger performing companies in the markets over 2020, these guys who've got monstrous positions, TR1 positions in some of these companies that have gone up 5, 10, 15x, they've all had a very decent hold of the free float. So Dev Clever being the main one, you've now got a very small community of people that hold the rump of the stock, and the performance is there for anybody to see. And for me, Capital Metals represents exactly the same opportunity. There's Australian money is certificated, so the stock is held in certificate. And there was a couple of million raised in the UK markets, and it's traded probably 2.5 million plus. So at some point, it's going to get to that point of capitulation, and the price will move, if for nothing more, because you've exhausted the number of sellers that have wanted to exit from its listing. They've participated in the raise or whatever. They've decided that they've seen a bit of profit, and yeah, we'll take that thing. Clearly, a number of people who are holding it with a longer view, and if my calculations are right, we should see that kick on very, very quickly. And we know that there's permitting news. We know that the company have got a very high grade. From your interview, actually, Mark, they've got a high grade asset there in its ilmenite and a variety of other different metals, of which these heavy metals now are becoming quite sought after. So yeah, I mean, I find Capital Metals as a great opportunity, and I'll take me out to both. Yeah, I think you've done a great job in the interview with Frayne as well, because he pretty much telegraphed that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that
company that's been. Go on, sorry, Mark.
It was interesting that I'd never heard of a mineral sands company before. It was great to learn about that, really, and yeah, understand a bit about the project. It sounds pretty good.
Dig it up, you put it through the machine. It separates very, very easily. It then reintroduces the back into the ground, so you can reinstate the environment quickly. It's not like some of these big sort of quarry type situations you see, these horrible dirty messes that are left behind. This is really quite a simple process. You dig it up, you separate it, you reinstate the land, you move on. It's not too disruptive at all. There's good infrastructure. And I just think a lot of people aren't really aware that when a company comes to market, they think it's brand new, or because it's an RTO, they think it's brand new. It's been operating for 4 or 5 years and been financed privately. So I think it's an exciting opportunity, but again, we'll wait and see.
I think it could be a good opportunity. I think what it perhaps lacks is that kind of sexiness or that kind of excitement. Because I get, like me, I didn't know what mineral sands were. I do now, having listened to the interview, and know that the minerals that come out are very used a lot in construction. Which when you hear about stimulus and obviously China economy going up again, then clearly we're going to need these commodities. But I just the thing might be it just might take a little bit of time for people to get excited about it. I don't know, maybe.
Well, all they need to do is go and look at a little company called Blue Jay Mining and their Dundas asset, and I think they'll start to realise that Blue Jay is about 120 million market cap. It was trading as high as 150 million market cap, and their asset is huge, but it's lower grade. The capex to develop it is much more expensive, and the valuation in the market. I mean, of course, they've got other assets, but it was this done the recent move in 2020 in the company, and that's the only direct comparator. So, even today, Capital Metals is trading at a quarter of the value of Blue Jay Mining, and its asset is higher grade and quicker to get to market and development. Now, arguably, the Dundas asset, I think it's called, the Blue Jay asset, is bigger, but only a very small proportion of the land has been explored with Capital Metals, for the simple reason, if you run the rule through the numbers, there's over $600 million of reserve there already. So it's almost a case of, well, we can keep showing it's bigger and bigger and bigger, but if we can't clearly demonstrate to market how we're going to get it to market and demonstrate it and finance it, then there's not really a business there. It's just a really speculative idea. So Frayne and the team there have decided to show a very simple model of how to finance the business and get it to market, and that's the advantage. But very cheap in comparison to Blue Jay, and I think that's why the market will eventually jump onto it, because they'll look at Blue Jay, they'll look at Capital Metals and say one's 120, one's 30. It should at least be. The one's overvalued, one's undervalued. Take your pick. Doesn't matter which it is. If you want to say Blue, then that should come down. Or it's a simple fact that Capital Metals is undervalued. It's one or the other. It's up to the market to decide, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah. But like you say, it's not a new company. It's been private for was it? As you say, 5 years. It's
5 years, yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely formed a nice fence. It seems to, for 2 or 3 days, it was just hovering round about there, to hopefully move up into the late 20s. That would be nice. So it would.
Yeah.
If that can't get to 30 or 40, you're wrong. I would accept it if the market takes a big wobble, or there's something of a problematic situation that unfolds quickly globally or something like that. If the wider environment changes and there's some big, reverberations through it of concern, then yeah, I mean, some of these things just aren't going to go any further for the time being. But if the market stays how it is, or it continues on its bullish path, which I don't see any reason why it doesn't, then that doesn't get to 30 or 40p. There's something really wrong, honestly.
Yeah, watch this space. Obviously, Mike. CMET used to be PAL, and that was a reverse takeover opportunity out in the market at the moment with Conduity. Now, obviously, it's been a great wee performance. I think it's went from about 1.4. It was nearly as high as 2.8 pence or something last week at one point.
Look, I mean, Conduity is a company that's run by Nick Lee. We talked about it on the podcast, one of the first podcasts I think we did, just into the autumn time last year. And it's a cash shell. Shells are popular right now. Perez Investments has been popular. So if you go and look at the board at Conduity, you've got Nick Lee there. Nick's also on the board CBD, cannabis well-being business. So there's some speculation that it'll go into that space, although I believe it'll be a tech acquisition. We know that some of the major Perez investors bought Crest, which is also a cash shell. done at something like 0. And there's been lots of noise from certain areas. The notable TR1 guys in Dev Clever are also buying Ridgecrest. So as soon as we saw that move, I think people looked at Conduity. We'd also seen Pineapple Energy or Pineapple PLC go up by 3-4 times the multiple. So these sort of special acquisition vehicles or cash shells or, these new speculative plays, should we say, red hot in the market. And Conduity Capital has certainly caught that wave of interest.
Yeah. I mean, for a while there, I was right in this sort of RTO space and cash shell space, but I've kind of distracted myself slightly, so I need to revisit it because there always seems to be, the buses, these shells, every month a new one appears because it's just a cycle, and for every one company succeeds, there's probably two that fails and gets rebranded and gets reborn.
Well, mate, I've been around this market a long time, and I can tell you that I've been in the market when shells have been popular, and I've been in the market when shells have been unpopular. There's an argument that a cash shell should not be valued $1 more than or £1 more than the cash in the company because there's nothing else there other than a drain, which is the board of directors. So it's a liability. It's just cash with a liability. It's actually, there's a reason it should be discounted to cash. There's an argument. You then go and look at other situations that we're seeing now in some of this Ridgecrest, like Conduity, lots of these other shells, and suddenly they're coming to life, aren't they, in an immense way, where people now are able to speculate, and because there's no clear line of sight, they're prepared to pay massive premiums to cash. I think the Pineapple one was bonkers. Anybody who's buying that at 13, 14p, and I made the comment on it last week to say, I think it's probably getting overheated at this point. I think, that's a worry kind of stock for me because I can't see any explanation to why it's being bought up. Whereas with Conduity, it's 6 months further down the line. It's got the same amount of cash. It's trading much cheaper than Pineapple, and the board have got a proven track record. I think there's more of an argument to have a go at that than there is to have a go at Pineapple, but who knows? The number of trades in that stock was insane, and I think it's one of these signaling groups that are getting hold of it. There's lots of these tiny little trades now that are popping up on companies, and I think you've got signaling groups where people follow on Discord or WhatsApps or whatever it is, and they're getting told, this is worth a look. And a bit like the Robin Hood traders in America or TikTok traders, they're just buying these things for $50 or £100 or whatever. But no, Shell's super popular. Ridgecrest, definitely one to watch out for. But yeah, for me, Conduity has performed excellently so far, and I'd keep abreast of them.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I mean, I was involved as well with Conduity and bought a few, so I'm quite happy with its performance.
I had a company called Life Science, that was Jim Mellon, and he had £1 million in cash, market cap of 1.25 million. Something daft like that, and I TR1'd it. It was the worst thing I ever did. I'd never do it again. I made a big mistake there. It went up, so I thought, okay, stick to your plan, de-risk it. I got a load of stick for selling, and everybody thought I'd sold out on the rise. And then the company went and suspended, delisted, never did anything. I lost a bit of money on it. I'm glad I de-risked it, but I took a load of stick for it publicly. This was years ago, and how could you get it so wrong in a cash shell with Jim Mellon and Denham Make? These guys had made a rumour to have made £500 million in the last company, but it went wrong. So there's the risk. And people need reminding of that when they're buying these shells and going bananas, thinking it's a no-lose bet. It can be. And I've had the losing bet, and it's horrible, let me tell you.
Yeah, I must have, in my Billy Big Balls days back in 2008, 9, 10, whatever. Yeah, I won in a few companies, and it didn't do me any favours. I actually get dragged into an AGM. It was I can't remember the name of the company. DirectX was the name of the company.
You told me about that,
yeah. DXR. Yeah, I ended up myself and another guy called Colin Sved, along with a couple of incoming well, they eventually became the directors who managed to get rid of the old board, but he ended up becoming a pawn in a game. So I kind of learned my lesson and stayed away from it. It's not. I don't think it's worth the hassle now. I don't have that much money to go TR1 companies
Well, look, I
anyway.
mean, one of the the upsides to that is if you've had some success in the last couple of trades you made and you jump on a TR1, people will buy it just because they want to follow you in. The downside is if it goes wrong, everybody assumes that you know more than them, and then they go bananas. And it's not always beneficial. I've seen lots of big investors go on TR1 on companies, and then the liquidity dries up. They can't get out.
Yeah,
stuck in there.
Have you done it before,
market? Oh, I've done it. Yeah, just that once with. It was called Life. It was a life science business, and anybody who knows Jim Mellon knows that he's notorious in that space. Rumored to have made £1 billion. I don't know if he has. I think there's a bit of BS that goes into that. And his board member was a guy called Denham Aiken. Denham was his right-hand man in all of the business he does, and there was another guy on the board who was an ex Sencos broker or somebody like that. Forgive me if it wasn't Sencos, but so you look at it and you say, well, £1 million in cash, £1.25 million market cap, got to be a winner. I bought in, TR1'd it, shares went mad. I stuck to my guns and did exactly what I'd already telegraphed. If this goes up a lot, I'm going to de-risk. I de-risked it, but I sold just below 3%. So I sold about 1% of my holding, which wasn't a lot. And then the company went suspended, never come back. And investors turned bandit on me saying, you sold your entire position. Because when you made that notification, you actually just go under that threshold of 3%. That's it. You no longer have to make any declaration. So they assumed that I'd sold the lot and sold them down the river. This was many, many years ago. And it just reminded me two things. Cash shells, they're popular today. They've not always been popular. You can lose money. Always remember that.
Yeah, no, there's definite risks, and obviously a lot of the cash shells are on a time scale as well, isn't it? It's 6 months, isn't it, for a reverse takeover before they suspend? I think.
Well, they've got 6 months to do the deal, and then once they suspend, they've got another 6 months from that date in order to do a transaction. I think right now, given the deal flow and there's quite a few number of shells today, so the market used to be littered with them. There's not many. So you're finding that the shells that are doing deals, they're not nearly all doing well. I think it's because the numbers of these cash vehicles are shrank significantly. So it's kind of by order of, natural selection. The deals that are going in are more meaningful, whereas before there wasn't enough deals for the number of vehicles. So you had like a lot of misses, whereas now we just seem to get a lot of hits. So look, I'm very confident that that Ridgecrest will do something interesting, because those guys haven't just bought into that in a big way for no reason. And I'm very, very confident in Conduity. And it's nice to see it trading up near 3p, given I was a big supporter at just over a penny. But, we'll wait to see what happens. I think Contango Holdings, on the other hand, is a company that's performed well, and then it's ground to a halt at sort of 8p, and it trades to high 7s, then up to 9 and back. They've made a very clear message in their last operational update at the back end of 2020, where they said that they'd be updating on both Zimbabwe with their coal asset and the 460% expansion in the gold asset in Mali. Now, we've not heard anything from that since, so I'm imagining we're going to get an update. So there, for me, there's a news catalyst coming. We know that the geologists went out to Mali. They never stopped doing any work, so there's got to be some positive progress from there. Zimbabwe, whether it's a week or two more that it's going to take before they can get into country, I don't know. We can't hold everyone to an exact time scale, i.e., we say we'll be out drilling in March and it ends up April. This is COVID territory now. We just hope that you get there or thereabouts. But looking at the demand for that coking coal, thermal coal, and you start talking about, do we think that the gold story is going to evaporate overnight? Then I don't think so. I think gold's going to remain to be something in focus for the next 12 months at least. And therefore, a big expansion in an area in Mali where don't forget, you've got gold fields and a variety of majors around that region as well. This isn't virgin territory or some frontier where you've got mom and pop panhandlers. This is a location which has been surrounded with big gold companies. So I think that there's an update there to be had. They've telegraphed it clearly to the market. Won't be surprised to see that one have a little tickle as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I think Africa as a continent is you're going to find a lot of the big players in Africa for gold. I think in the next 10, 20 years, it's probably the most underexplored this area in the world now.
There's a reason why, historically there's been many of a war and approach to sort of topple governments and regimes and set up British and French and a variety of different Portuguese colonies around that continent is because it's notably rich in diamonds and metals and minerals. So it went out of fashion for a long time because of geopolitical risk, etc. But I think the world's getting to a point where it's got to keep finding new avenues, and Africa's coming back into sight.
Yeah, money talks at the end of the day. If the gold's there, I'm not saying it doesn't matter if there's a civil war going on or whatever, or political upheaval, they always mitigate it or work a way around about it. So
Ghana's the country to actually look at. I don't know. I don't have any interest in any countries in gold company in Ghana, but if you looked at they had one of the biggest oil discoveries about 10 years ago with Cosmos and Tullow, and it was one of the reasons that Tullow oil became so big. They'd had this Jubilee field, they called it, major discovery in Ghana, and as a consequence, the workforce, in the gold space particularly, mines were shutting down left, right, and centre, and all of the personnel were rushing to the oil companies. So I reckon there's a real opportunity there. So if anybody is doing any due diligence, and you're looking at something that's been operational maybe 10 years ago or a little after, in the last decade or two, and it's in Ghana, could be of interest because it was already one of the major sources of revenue in that country, and it all just evaporated overnight because everybody chased this massive oil story. So could be an opportunity there. I don't know if you're looking at anything in that area, Ken, or you've heard of anything. Mark,
no, I'm not really. Like I say, it's an area I should really focus more on because there's going to be diamonds of companies that are probably sitting in decent assets that are just unloved and off the radar. It'll take a bit of research, I think, a bit of time. Maybe even looking in the next exchange. Because there's quite a lot of companies on there.
You're pretty hot. You get excited, Kenny, about researching areas, don't you? Because anywhere you can look, see if there's anything going on in.
Well, there is. Obviously, the African countries, they don't have the same level of databases that they have in Australia and Canada, places like that. Sure. So it's pretty superficial. You're just scratching the surface, and then it's. I suppose you're probably just Googling and going in 8 or 9 pages deep, try to find something. Honestly, I don't know. I imagine countries like Botswana and probably South Africa will have a pretty decent system.
Yeah.
But like Ghana and Mali and Cameroon, places like that will be it'll be pretty basic, to be honest.
Botswana's a good jurisdiction, though, isn't it? Who were we talking to the other day? Was it Guyane? Yeah, Guyane metals. Yeah, manganese, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Used in batteries. Yeah. They've got a nice trio of projects down in Botswana.
Yeah, they're listed in the TSX, aren't they?
That's right. Yeah, they are. They're TSX listed. That is right.
Yeah, it's a bizarre ticker. So the company's called Guyana Metals, and the ticker's EMM. I don't get that one. It's kind of strange, but there must be a reason for it. I don't know.
Probably an emu farming company beforehand that's been rebranded.
Maybe it was an emu farming company. Yeah. But do you think that I know it's not perhaps as easy to buy TSX companies, but generally they're are they more valued over there? They seem to have much to attract more interest and investment. Do they?
Well, they seem to spend an absolute fortune in PR. I mean, I don't know what a typical AIM company spends
And they
in,
have
in
big
PR.
boards as well, don't they? They tend
Yeah,
to.
yeah, it's like a football team. For some reason, you look at you scroll down these boards of directors, and you're like, they've got a president of exploration, a vice president of exploration, and then you'll have a vice president of business and a vice. It's crazy. It's
Yeah, there's
crazy
a
amount
lot of people. Yeah, so I don't know, but I just heard in the past that investors tend to value mining exploration companies more on the TSX, maybe because of Canada's history of that mining exploration. Generally, the UK doesn't really have that much of. Maybe, I don't know.
Now, what happens is when the markets are good, they get a much better valuation, and when the markets are bad, they get a really shite valuation.
Oh, is that it?
So if you go back and look at some of these Canadian companies, they would be getting valued at £1 million or £2 million. They'd be valued at what bit of cash they had. It was shocking, which is why 5 or 6 years ago, lots of notable London-based investors would be going out to the mining conferences over there and a variety of different things, looking to try and do joint venture deals with them, because they were massively undervalued. Now what we're seeing is a reversal in that, and some of these companies now are coming from Canada on good valuations, and they wanted to try and get listed or dual listed here again. So we're starting to see that dual listing phase take place again, and I think there's been a history of, when you see lots of these companies moving from one place to another, they're just trying to squeeze extra value out of the businesses, and they're looking for those liquidity opportunities.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Canada's hot now, but it wasn't for a long time, let me tell you.
It's a bit like Novo Resources were worth $1 billion a couple of years ago, and they didn't have an ounce of gold. They hadn't even drilled in Australia.
Well, Artemis were the same, weren't they? I mean, if you went to Artemis, they were trading at 250 million. I spoke extensively on social media when they were trading at, I think it was 0.003 cents, 3 cents it was, or something like that. And I interviewed the director of that company. And the shares have gone up quite a bit since. I'm sick as a dog that I never bought them. They were looking to list over here, but then, COVID happened and the mining space has really warmed up. And now they're getting fair value over in Oz, and they don't seem to appear to be showing any signs of wanting to come here at this point. But there was a lot of talk of it at one point. Ed Mead, his name was. Yeah, and they've got that asset right next to Greatland, and was it Havieron? And, the thing that he said in the interview, and I'll never forget it, was while they were celebrating that great discovery, we were out pegging the ground next to it that weekend. He said they might be fabulously lucky in the market, but he said I was as surprised as anyone to find that the asset neighbouring it, the acreage directly opposite, they hadn't even pegged. He said, so we pegged it and we pinched it. And that's how they got back on the track, really, because they were really struggling. Ed was one of the original founders of that business. He went back in, and he seems to have made good footing on recovering that business back to something of fair value. But yeah, there was Artemis, Novus, and Greatland was the poor cousin. Now Greatland's the rich brother, isn't it? It's fascinating how it all plays out.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, obviously everybody was in panic last week because Greatland dropped 25% or whatever. There was some interesting commentary in social media, so there was. But at the end of the day, they're not going to hit those grades in every single hole. But it quickly bounced. I think it only ended up maybe 10-12% down in the day, something like that.
Fucking madness, though, that valuation. I don't care what anyone says. I accepted long ago that my view of that company was wrong, and I got it wholly wrong. But, when you're starting talking about $1 billion or $1.5 billion, I don't know how they can justify that. I mean, yes, the relationships with the majors and whatnot is immense. They raised 60 million, I think, when I last looked. So they've got plenty of cash, good opportunity. And clearly they've landed on something quite interesting. But I noticed Gervais has now left the business and moved on. Is that a case that he realised, it's run its course on a valuation basis and it's time for me to cash in and get gone? and go and start something else, because it won't be long before we see him pop up again. Let me tell you, knowing how these markets work, it's been a big positive result for Gervais. So again, big hats off to him. But he won't be more than 6-12 months away, and then he'll be back with a new venture somewhere.
I suppose the kick or the drive that he'll probably get is the journey, and he probably came to that point and was right. We've made the discovery. It's too big. There's nothing. I'm not saying there's nothing in it. He's obviously got a wad of shares. He'll be worth a few million.
But he's still not got them now, though. I'll bet my bollocks to Barnyard he doesn't own that many of them, surely.
I don't think he's left yet. I think he just announced he was leaving. I'm sure it's March before he leaves, potentially.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, he probably had to give 3 months' notice for business continuity or something. I don't know. I'm just assuming. But no, I imagine he gets his kick, taking something early stage and developing it.
He's done a good job of it. He's done a great job, no doubt about it. And like I say, if you've just had that amount of good luck and fortune, why would you sort of sail off into the sunset? I mean, the obvious thing to do at this point is to go again. That's what I would have thought. And give him 12 months, and we should see him somewhere doing something. Yeah.
I'm sure he's had plenty of offers, Mike. So he has.
I won't be short of him, will he? I mean, reputationally, you've gone from being the poor cousin over at the Pilbara to being a $1.5 billion company. I remember that when it was run by Callum Baxter and the gang there. They'd been kicking the can round for years and years, doing nothing, and then come to light.
Callum's still there. So he is.
Is he still on the board?
Yeah, he is. He is. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I thought he moved on. Wowza. Okay, well, fair play to Callum. He's one of the few people that ever thanked me for an interview as well. Most people just accept it, the good side, don't even bother to say thanks, and never forget him, because he phoned me up and said thanks a lot, really helped. So yeah, I like him actually, even though his performance wasn't great, but seemingly if he's still involved, I should start to credit him with a bit more success.
Yeah, he's been there, I think, since day one, hasn't he?
Pretty much, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because Andrew Bell was involved with Greatland as well, from memory. Trying to remember, yeah. I think going back in my memory bank, I'm sure Andrew was there at one point as well. But yeah,
Andrew's been involved with everything in the mining space. He's been around that long, isn't he? He's like Father Christmas. Everyone's sat on his knee.
Yeah. I actually think Red Rock have got quite an interesting. That was nobody really paid any attention to the announcement that came out last week, but the IPO of Juno Minerals Limited is quite interesting, because Red Rock have got a large royalty on that project. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because according to the RNS, they still have a royalty deal in play from 2012, whereby Red Rock get an $8 million payment from, I think it's Anglo Pacific, I think. So we'll see how that plays out.
And anybody who wants to start throwing rotten tomatoes at Andrew might want to go and look at the last company that they had a royalty payment with, a little company called Jupiter Mines.
Yeah.
Which I think it's spewed out tens of millions of pounds to Red Rock over the years, or certainly millions of pounds, and it got up to a right hefty valuation. So that was a great success. So I kind of think that people are always quick to slate and slag folk off, but they forget to point out the good bits, and that Jupiter Mines deal was an absolute stunner. And had the mining space stayed more buoyant, he would have had a big stake in that business still. But because, he had I think Red Rock back then was a 20, 30, 40 million market cap business and a big team to keep going. They basically lived off the fat of Jupiter.
Yeah.
Sadly have ended up with very little. But, should he get another one of them in, it'll turn things around. And look, Red Rock, for all of its sins, it's the cheapest one in that Victoria space now. I think it's got good value. Yeah. I've said it before. I mean, I'm big onto ECR. I like ECR. I know you guys love power, but for me, even though Andrew's involved, Red Rock's cheap. It's cheap out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they've got that Kenya asset that's just totally disregarded by the market as well.
Totally.
Once if that gets its 2012 JORC status, that's
enormous. It's enormous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge upscale potential as well. And there's so much drilling been done there as well. So there could be a lot more.
Andrew would do well to go and find himself somebody to sit on the board with him and change the company's the face of the business a bit. Wouldn't do him any harm.
Yeah, there's been a few. Well, I'm trying. I mean, Andrew's been there since day one. I think Michael Knott's been there since day one. I don't know about the other guys, but no, it could do with a bit of a sprinkling of magic dust, just to freshen it up.
Mark, if you fancy it,
yeah,
get yourself in
Mark.
there, CEO Mark.
What, of Red Rock?
Yeah, I think you can. Listen, you'll do a better job than some. You know what I mean? There's some people out there that are very uninspiring, Mark. I'm inspired every time I talk to you.
You're being too kind.
I'm pulling your leg, Mark. I'm pulling your leg, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe one day, but I'm pretty comfortable doing the interviews now, and people are getting to know my face, which is a bit scary. So yeah, people are commenting about me. It's all good.
It's your hair, not your face. It's your hair, Mark, that people are commenting about.
You see, if governments run the lockers down and shut all the hairdressers, what can I do? Hey, and I'm 32. I might lose my hair, so let's enjoy it while I've got it. Then I'll just be like everyone else.
I have not paid for a haircut since I got married. I've never been to the hairdresser since I got married. Paula just cuts my hair with a trimmer.
Yeah, well,
in fact,
go on.
Yeah, in fact, this is how.
Don't tell us what other hair she cuts. For fuck's sake, let's move on.
No. We had I've only ever had 2 sets of trimmers to cut my hair, and the last set only replaced about a year ago, and it was that old, right? Still in the box, and there was a VHS video how to cut your hair. So that's how old that trimmer was, but it still worked.
The VHS video had gone out of fashion by the time Mark was born.
No. So we must.
He's like, what? No DVDs? What are you talking about, video?
Yeah, must have 25 years. That must have been kicking about.
Well, you see, you've got to look good. Would you rather look like Boris Johnson or David Cameron? I think you've got to think how you appear when you're on the camera.
Well, that's why I don't do interviews. That's why I leave it to you. I just hide behind a microphone. But there we go. Good stuff.
Where's the next red hot sector? I mean, we talked about tech and we've talked about all these different sort of things. It seems to always, grind back to resources. But
it does. That's because we like that, don't we? That's what excites us. I think the next big thing is crypto. I'll be honest. I think that's going to be massive. There's going to be a huge bubble there.
Again, you mean again?
I think the bubble's very small.
Oh right, okay.
I think we're very start. Go on, Guinea.
Cyber security.
Well, in cryptocurrency.
Yeah, in crypto. Yeah, I think the bubble is very small. I think we're at the very start of what's going to be an incredible journey. And the bubble.
Mark, where were you in 2018-19 when it was going bananas?
He was doing his hair.
Yeah, but look what it's done since.
Well, I know, yeah. People lost fortunes, didn't they? But it has got bigger,
True.
Right? But
it's got bigger. Yeah, and I think
here's the question that I always ask you, and I asked McAfee this then, and you might be able to help me, given you've looked into it. When you've got these boundaryless and borderless currencies, which are not linked to, the government, centralized control, and all of this sort of stuff, why is it when you start getting investigations from the SEC and a variety of other places that these crypto things collapse? That's what I don't get.
That was only one, though, wasn't it? That was only XRP that collapsed because of the investigation.
Well, it's only because it's the one that we're aware of. I mean, there's been... Well, and the point that I'm trying to get at is two things that I've never understood. If it's boundaryless and borderless, why did he give a shit what
its value
what governments are suggesting about the business and its functionality? And the other thing is why do all these crypto millionaires end up turning the currency back into dollars? I mean, I know there's hard. I had to chat to a bloke yesterday who's made a fortune in this space, a friend of mine from the US. But, I asked him this question: why is it unless you're one of the 10% sort of hardcore Bitcoiners, they're never going to sell Bitcoin. They're never going to give Bitcoin up. They're going to hold them as long as they've got a hole in their ass. But for the other 90% of these big promoters in that Bitcoin crypto space, why is it when they make millions, they turn it back into currency? Why don't they keep their own? Why don't they keep Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, I guess
I
it's
don't
like
get it.
having gold, though, isn't it? I mean, if you bought gold and it went crazy, you can't spend gold down the shop, can you? So you turn it, you cash in your gains. I guess that's what people are doing, because ultimately it's not why, and I think that's why it happens like that, because it's not widely accepted at the moment. It's not normal. It's not regulated anywhere really.
Well, you've obviously not read the Bible, have you? The cryptocurrency Bible that basically states that these centralized governments and these state currencies are going to eventually eventually become worthless, and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all of these other things are going to be the currency of the future. So that kind of doesn't. Anyway,
Well, maybe
it's exciting to see what's going on, because it's clear that big move in Bitcoin has made a lot of people a lot of cash with Argo blockchain. I know you guys love Coincilium, so all of that's back on the map now. That's for certain, and that's positive for secondary. Yeah,
but I think that the digital currencies will come from central banks. I mean, the ECB are already going to announce that they're going to develop a digital euro. So you'll have the crypto euro effectively, but it'll be issued by a central bank direct to the end user. It'll cut out the intermediary, which is the banks. So that open ledger idea and concept will still be there. But it will come straight, just like the crypto is mined at the moment from an individual. It will be actually issued by the central bank, but direct to the end user. What happens to the current ones, i.e. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP? Well, who knows? Maybe they'll be around. Right. Maybe they won't. But there's still a journey that's starting here.
Oh no, I'm with you now. So what you're saying is the days of the new revolution of this becoming, something that acts totally independent of centralized control and all of the rest of it. What you're saying now is actually that this is exactly how it's going to work. It's going to be run and controlled by governments and states around the world, and they're going to have their own currencies, and that's why it's going to flourish.
They will. They'll invent their own. I mean, China's already doing it. ECB has already done a consultation on it, and what's her name, Christine Lagarde's she's making an announcement soon about it, I think, and they reckon in about 5 years' time there will be a digital euro based off.
Didn't Venezuela look at dropping their currency as well for something like this?
Yeah, that was their way of getting out of this huge inflation over there, isn't it?
Venezuela. Yeah, it is, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's one way of doing it, I suppose, isn't it? And the conspiracy theories might say that you can reset the whole monetary easing by basically revaluing against something like a new digital currency. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But I think my point is that crypto is becoming more and more talked about. It is becoming more stable. The technology is there, and central banks and governments are going to start integrating it, I think. And I just think it's here to stay, for a long time. And I think it will become a huge bubble, just like the tech bubble became huge and the tulip bubble became huge. People will make a fortune, people will lose a fortune when these bubbles burst. But the fundamental, it's going to be around for forever, like the internet still is around, even though the .com went bust. Tulips are still around, even though tulip mania disappeared. So that's my point. I think it's here to stay. And I think get involved. Why not?
Yeah, well, I'll just go back to your original question, Doc. I think cybersecurity will be big going forward as well. But it's a sector I've never really looked at, to be honest. So I need to do a bit of looking. But obviously the one that comes to mind that is Brand Shield, which is reversing it into two shields at the moment. That's about the only one I really know out there. Well,
the one thing they're saying, isn't there, is that if you want to try and find a big population of crooked companies in that space, go to Israel. But if you want to find the best people in the world, the best spies in the world, the best people in tech, go to Israel. So it's like the same place, isn't it? I don't know what the great attraction is there. I don't know why they've got this huge population of people who are great at doing that, but also a big population of folk who are less than honest as well, from what I can gather. That's not a personal sort of call on Jewish people in general, but it just seems to be a country, doesn't it, that the best in the world seem to operate from there, and yet some of the most corrupt have come from there too. So it's clear to me that they've got a real condensed part of the world that excels within that space. And of course, there's a couple of bad apples with it. But yeah, it seems that's isn't that where it's coming from as well? I mean, or have I totally got myself mixed up?
No, the brand shield guy, we interviewed. Did we do a podcast with him, didn't we, Mark?
Yeah, with Brand Shield, yes.
Yeah. He was really interesting, so he was. I'm trying to remember his name.
Notoriously good, though. Notoriously good, them guys.
Yeah, but no, I think that's a sector that'll probably have some legs as well as the world evolves, especially.
I mean, there's a whole sector on a whole podcast on up and coming sectors of interest that you could perhaps think about with somebody who's got a bit more between their ears than me and maybe even Kenny, Mark. If you can find someone who's intellectual, that would be a good interview, and I'd be really keen to hear that, because I think there's a lot of the market that I've not looked at. I think by your own admission, guys, you're not looking at. So that's a good opportunity to really look at something that diversifies us in the market. But I still think there's big legs in oil companies. And I don't know if you looked at Petrofac last week. I had a little go at them. They're a much bigger company, 400 million market cap. But these have come from 10 quid or more down to £1 a share. And it's a bit like the Rolls-Royce argument now, Mark. It's getting to that point where it's getting a bit silly, and there could be a real big rebound. Petrofac had some, I think, corrupt directors. I think the former CFO was charged with something that a legacy issue that really laboured on the business for a long time, and there was all sorts of mess there. There was an RNS that come out last week, and the shares come off from, I think, 130 or 150 down to £1. And it was a legacy issue. It was almost saying, this is what happened. We finalised our investigation, and this is the outcome. And the shares are still getting hit. And you think, well, they got whacked from £3 down to £1. They got whacked from £7 to £3. They got whacked from £10 plus to £7. It's like, how many times are these guys going to keep getting battered in valuation, when in actual fact, the issue is from years gone by? And surely the business is on better footing now. But Petrofac's a huge name, a services business within industry. I don't know if that's worth a little look, but I've had a go at that. I think it's well worth a risky few bob.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Well, I think, Mark, we've probably you had an appointment at 7 o'clock, didn't you? And we've overran it a bit, so I think we better.
We're about an hour, so that's a good time.
Yeah, perfect. All right, good stuff. Right, as always, Doc, appreciate your time.
Been a pleasure as always a pleasure, never a chore, and we'll catch up again, I'm sure.
Well, almost rhymed, dear Mark. Well done.
Thank you for listening to another podcast from Market Musings with Fairbairn.